Today we are kit building our very own ukulele. Now we're going to try and model it on Hokusai's Great Wave. I'm no artist, but let's get into it and see what happens. Okay, here we are, and we have our very nearly finished ukulele now. It's looking really nice. I'm really happy with it. The varnish is a little bit suspect on the back, but we're not going to look at that too much, and I'm really not too worried. Overall, the effect is just more than I really hoped for, more than I expected, and I'm really happy with how that's come together. The white splashing of the waves has really made all the difference. It's funny how you can cover so many mistakes with an extra layer of something with a bit of artwork. So what we're doing now is we're going to put the tuning pegs on the head there, and we've got all the tuning pegs and the screws all on the sleeves ready to go, and then we're going to try and string it, and we'll see if we can get it in tune, ready for a final sing-song, and we'll see what it sounds like. So let's have a look at what we've got. We've got these tuning pegs, which are relatively straightforward. They just slot through, and also on the back of the head we've got the pinholes where they're going to match up to, so I can actually see really easily which way round they go as well, so there's no difficulty here. I've got the bridle if I need to. I'm going to try it without the bridle to begin with, because they're only small screws and I don't want to make the holes too big. So hang on, what am I doing? So there we go, one like that. I think we'll do it one at a time, probably. Just checking this. I'm going to put them all in just to double check they're not supposed to be a particular way around. That one will go there. Yeah, this is fine. In fact, they pretty much just sit in whilst I screw, so they'll all fit in like that. Yeah, that's all fine. So just got to carefully screw them in. Each one's got 2 screw holes, so it shouldn't take too long. So I've used the small screwdriver to begin with to just delicately feed them in to begin with, but then the last few turns have got to be nice and strong to really hold it in tight. So I'm just switching to the larger screwdriver there so I don't want to mangle the screw head, which you can sometimes do with this fine screw tip. Yeah, they're relatively secure. Okay, 2 in, 2 to go, and then I think these sleeves will just fit on the top, and I don't think they need sticking on. They can just stay on. They can just stay on loose, and the strings hold them in place. So pop those 2 on there, ready. That's what it's beginning to take shape. You can see they're not perfectly in line in truth, but it's okay. That top one's nice. It's that bottom one is annoying me, actually. It's bugging me. I think if I unscrew them, I'm just going to regret it. He says, unscrewing them. Oh, that's just gone up my sleeve. There we go. I'm going to risk a second hole in the bottom. Try and keep the top hole where it is. Just pivot it slightly. Really don't want to do 2 new holes, but risk 1 new hole at the bottom. That is making it a lot straighter, actually. I have managed to salvage that quite well, he says. There'll be a crack in a minute and it'll all go wrong. That's a bit straighter, isn't it? Yes, that's looking much better. So 2 down, 2 to go. Ready to go. Yeah, that top one, I'm going to completely do a new hole at the bottom. I think I'll do the top screw first, because if I line it up with the two holes, that's the angle we get. And I don't know whether you can see that, that's really crooked. It wants to be in line with the one below, which is in line with this side of the ukulele, like that. So I'm going to have to I'll do the top hole where it is, and then I'll redo the bottom hole with the trusty bradawl. Okay, there we go. Four tuning pegs, all in place, ready to go. So we pop the sleeves on. It's looking good already, isn't it? There we go. And now the final piece is final bit, the strings. Now normally when you get a set of strings, they're colour coded so you can see which one's supposed to be which. These are not colour coded, and I suspect they're all the same width, because ukulele strings will be slightly thicker or thinner depending on which string it is. The lower strings will be a thicker string normally. So I'm just going to take a moment. These are looking like 4 identical strings, so I'm not too worried about that. So what we said we were going to do, we're going to basically thread them from the bottom, from the bridge, and if you look carefully, there's a 4 holes on the bridge there at the bottom, which then feed up to the 4 holes on the top of the bridge, and we'll go through there, up and over the saddle, and then across to the nuts, and then up to the tuning pegs, and hopefully be able to tune it. We might need to trim the end of the strings at the end. So we'll just start with a little overhand knot. On the camera to start with a little overhand knot there. So we end up with a little bump in the string. Can you see that? Ooh, you can see that. So that's probably going to be enough, because I don't think that will pass through. What you have to make sure is that it's not going to pass through the hole there. Normally 1 overhand will do it. You can do 2, but you don't want to make it too clumpy at the bottom of your ukulele. I think 1 will be enough, because that hole's quite small. In fact, I'm going to have a problem now feeding it. Can you see that? You can't see. Can you see that? There we go. I have a problem feeding it up through the. That's not going to want to go. So the plan was to feed it up from the bottom. It doesn't actually want to feed either way. This could take a bit of doing. Having to bend the end of the string, which isn't a problem, because the end of the string is going to probably be cut off anyway. I'm really having to hook that round. We're not a million miles away. Aha, here we go. Right, that is really fiddly. That is really fiddly. Very hard to do. Actually, that's probably the hardest bit. But you just had to really twist the end and almost make it like a little fish hook on the end of the string, and then feed it in. And that's nicely wedged in there, so that's fine. I'll be able to trim the bottom as well later. So that's the first one. We go up to the neck and then through the first hole. Now, some people, when they tune a ukulele, will not actually tie it at the top, and they'll just rely on the tension of the string to hold it in place. Personally, I always like to do 1 overhand knot again, just to hold it in place. I don't think that's a terrible thing. And then we start tightening it. There we go. Okay, that's the first string. It's all looking relatively secure. The profile there of the string seems to be very raised up. So I think the bridge is a bit high potentially. It's quite a gap there. I think my other ukuleles generally have a much narrower gap, and you can see that should be relatively flat there. That gap there should be relatively consistent. It's really angled down towards the top there. It's not perfect, but we'll get the other strings on in place. I think it'll be okay. I think it'll do the job. Oh, that's the first string. 1 down, 3 to go. There we go, got our top 2 strings, rather untuned at the moment, but I'll get all 4 strings in and then I can tune them up together. Okay, here we are. There has been a bit of a development. I was doing quite well with the with the strings. I'd actually got all 4 on, and I'd restrung them at the top so they were actually turning the right way, because you want to try and get them so they're not overlapping each other when they go to the top, so you've got to try and wind them all the same way. Unfortunately, what I worried about has happened, and the whole thing has snapped at the neck. And the problem is that dowel piece that we talked about earlier, it's sunk quite far in, really wasn't big enough to do the job. So what I'm very carefully going to do now is just loosen the strings, and we questioned whether or not we would be able to play this. And in fairness, I don't really need to, need to be able to play it. I'm being really careful while I loosen this, because what I'm hoping to do is stick it back together and keep it as a presentation piece, because I'm actually really pleased with how the art has turned out, but I don't think it's going to be salvageable as a playing piece. I could put some more glue on and maybe put a bigger dowel in, but it's clearly not a very strong join. Hang on. So what I'm going to do is just loosen the strings, and then so that there won't be the pressure on the neck. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim the strings so that it looks just like a really nice presentation piece, and I can keep it on a shelf, and it'll be a lovely art present. So it's probably more of an art gift than a music gift in the first place, and I can certainly enjoy it as that, but without being able to play it. So I've got quite a mess here with the strings. So there we go, it's back in one piece. There's a little bit of paint unfortunately lost there in the middle. So I now need to put some more super glue on there, and then I'm just going to trim the end of the strings and try and tighten them just a little bit, but without the pressure on the super glue, and then I think we'll be done. So I'll cut to that and show you the finished art piece, and we're not going to be musically testing it, but we're going to be enjoying it as a finished art installation that can be added to my musical shelf. Okay, here we are. Here is the finished piece. Now, it would be possible if I really wanted to go to quite a bit more trouble to redesign the connection there between the neck and the body, and I could probably drill a hole and get a screw in there, and or maybe put a bigger dowel in there and really get a lot more of a joint in place there. As it is, it's quite frail. I've re-glued it. It's drying at the moment, and I'm not really wanting to put any tension on that, so I've restrung it, and I've trimmed the strings at both ends, so it's looking nice and neat, and it's looking like the real thing. You can see the strings are very loose there. I'm not going to tighten them because I don't want to risk putting that pressure on the neck again. But as a presentation piece, I'm really delighted with that. I'm really happy with that, so that's just going to be a nice art piece, and I'm sure I'll try and incorporate that artwork into my channel at some point. So I'm just going to take the camera off the stand, and I'm just going to give you a close-up of the whole thing before we finish. So I hope you've enjoyed my little mini-series of constructing a ukulele kit, and I think we can learn from that actually they were a lot of fun. You can learn a lot about how to put the strings on and how to do the tuning pegs, and you can have a lot of fun painting it and creating different designs. Be mindful when you buy a kit of the join, and also the bridge. Have a look at the bridge and how the strings are going to feed through and how the bridge is going to attach to the ukulele. Have a look at the join there as well. Those are the bits that when you buy a kit you want to be thinking about. How are they going to be substantial? Are they going to be strong enough? But they were a lot of fun, so I'd certainly recommend grabbing one and having some fun and seeing what designs you can come up with, and I'm sure you can do a better job than I've done now. And yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed that mini-series. Thank you very much for watching.